Something I think it's time to have a conversation about is the overusage of and really the entire concept of coping and seething. This is a term you come across a lot online. Basically, it refers to someone having a negative reaction whenever they're criticized, insulted, something doesn't go their way in terms of their personal life or the broader society. And when they see that means that they're just impotently angry, there's nothing they can do about it. It's particularly bad when they're trying to pretend they're not angry, when they're very clearly angry. And basically, what it amounts to is you're making fun of the person for being mad and for having an emotional reaction to try to make them have another emotional reaction and to try to get them to spiral and get angrier and angrier until they do something stupid. Coping is the idea that if you attempt to rationalize a failure and say, okay, well, there's a silver lining, or maybe this isn't so bad, or maybe there's some extenuating circumstances or something, that the person is delusional and they're living in kind of an alternate reality. It's really, I think, a way of trying to gaslight somebody um, by trying to make them believe that their entire worldview is untenable and the issue is in fact black and white and there are no mitigating circumstances or mitigating factors. The person's just a straight out total loser. And increasingly, I'm starting to see these things as being negative, something that's very overused, and something that I kind of sets a very bad precedent in terms of how people should act and how people should kind of look at the world. And I know I'm guilty of using these terms a lot myself, and it's something I need to really kind of do less of. But in my partial defense, most of when I attack people for coping or seething, it's because it irritates me when they're dishonest about it. When they say, I don't care, I don't read Kiwi Farms, I don't read the comment section, and then they do like a 3 hour show about how they don't care and they show that they have intimate knowledge of it. My issue is more the dishonesty and the lying when you don't really need to. So, what is my point? Why do I think this is a bad thing and that it's something we might want to step back from a bit? I think my fundamental issue is at the basis of the premise of this that people are seething and that people are having, that we should make fun of people for having negative emotional reactions, is the idea that you have to like be 90s kid. You have to be cool, you have to not care about anything, that somehow that's like a desirable state to be in, where you don't care about anyone else, you don't care about your opinions, you don't care what happens in your life, you don't care what happens around you. And somehow not caring makes you a better person than someone who does care. That's not to say that all emotional reactions are good and it's always bad to be able to suppress your emotions or show stoicism or show resignation in the face of life's difficulties. But I do think it's a very bad precedent to set where people trying to express any kind of basic human emotion, that there's something wrong with them and trying to gaslight them into thinking that um, it's a personal flaw, I think is really dangerous, because I think it does lead to people bottling up their emotions, not being able to kind of deal with them. And is that really like the world you want to live in? Where anytime somebody tries to express an opinion, be it like, I really like this, it made me happy, it made me sad, that sort of thing, that they get mocked for it and they get torn down for it, and we have to live in this world where nobody cares about anything. The truth of the matter is, no matter how much you want to get deny it or try to get past it, humans are social animals. We do fundamentally care what other people think about us, even if it's to a very minor degree, even if it's in terms of personal survival or personal gain. The opinions of others matter a lot to us. Um, the environment we're in matters a lot to us. What's happening in the broader society matters a lot to us. Now, obviously, it varies from person to person. Some people are a lot less bothered by being insulted or being attacked than others. And some people are more involved with their personal world and their personal life than in the broader society. But I do think it's fundamentally a bad thing to cultivate the idea that caring about other people or caring about social things is some sign of like pathology or something really bad that needs to be avoided. Now, obviously, there's a difference between caring about something and acknowledging that you care about it and overreacting, going into crazy mode, destroying your life and burning everything down. If anything, I think that the um, inability of people to express themselves makes it so that when they do finally kind of reach that point, they do kind of explode and they don't really know how to deal with it. So, for instance, like, I'm not going to pretend that I don't read people's comments and I don't react to them. And I don't react to them more strongly if it's someone whose opinion I respect or someone who's a regular commenter who I think I have a bit of a relationship or a bit of a rapport from. If someone from that group posts something and says, "This is terrible, this is the worst thing you've ever done," of course that's going to impact me. Does that mean I have to like go crazy and pull the video down and stuff? I admit I sometimes do that. Um, I think everybody at some point in their life has had a panic reaction and kind of overreacted to that. I think learning to deal with that is an important part of life. And that's one of the major reasons I started doing YouTube, was in order to get better at dealing with criticism, at getting better at dealing with people I didn't know personally, people who might be hostile to me, people who might be critical. Um, I think there's a difference between suppressing and denying that emotions exist and accepting them but trying to deal with them and manage them in a healthy manner. So, once again, I do this and I really shouldn't do this, but most of the cases where I make fun of people for seething, like I said, it's because they do 3-hour streams talking about how cool they are because they're like an alpha male or they're a sigma male, and they don't care what people say about them, and they have contempt for it. But it's really obvious that it bothers them. And often it bothers them very, very deeply, to the point it causes them to destroy their lives, trying to get revenge at people who laughed at them on the internet. And I mean, is that a more healthy way of dealing with it, to pretend that you don't care and then just going on a flagging spree and doxing people and swatting them and trying to ruin their lives because you can't acknowledge the fact that it does bother you? Like, I think it would be easier in a lot of these cases to just go, yeah, it does get to me sometimes when people shit on me. It's something I have to work on. Just accepting that if I'm going to be an online personality, especially if I'm going to hold kind of unpopular views, yeah, a lot of people are going to take shots at me. A lot of people are going to shit on me. And it's something I have to learn to deal with, and it's something that I need to learn to manage. The reality is there's only so much you can do to repress your emotions. And this is kind of something I went through when I was going through therapy that really helped me. Is previously I tried to deny my emotions or repress them, but they taught me was, and this was, I think, dialectical therapy, that you have to acknowledge your feelings, understand what's behind them, and find a way to manage them. Because they're a part of you as much as the rational part is of you. And if you don't come to peace with it, you're going to be continually at war with yourself. And you're not going to be a happy person, and you're not going to be able to manage things properly. And I'm not saying this as some like sage who has it all figured out. I get angry, I pretend I'm not angry, I overreact, I publish things that I shouldn't. Part of that is bipolar, where I do stupid shit if I'm manic. I get really aggressive. I know back before I took medication, I used to ruin interpersonal relationships by just freaking out on people when I was in a manic phase. Um, and also being in denial of the fact that I was acting irrational and that I was acting crazy and that I was unwilling to assign any blame to myself. But that's kind of like the first part with the whole you're somehow a pathological asshole, like you're pathologically insane if you emotionally react to anything. Now, on the other hand, there's also kind of the whole concept of coping. Now, I've said this many times in the past that a critical part in life is learning to take the L. Is when you get blown out, when you fail, it's better to just accept it and try to move on and learn from your mistakes rather than try to pretend that everything went right. That being said, the real world is not black and white. Sometimes you'll have a job and the job won't work out, but you will pick up skills or you will get a better idea of what you want to do in life. And to look at the experience and say, okay, the job didn't work out, but I did learn this skill set. Like, you can say that that's coping or whatever, but that doesn't mean it's untrue, and that doesn't mean it's a delusional or irrational way of looking at it. The idea that looking at any circumstance and trying to see what the good and bad aspects of it is some sort of pathological inability to comprehend reality is, I think, very disingenuous, and it is a form of gaslighting. That being said, there certainly are a lot of cases where people are in a delusion. They are unwilling to accept the loss. They're unwilling to accept anything negative that happens to them or any kind of personal failures, whether that's driven by narcissism or low self-esteem or whatever it is. But I think that's more of a product of kind of the alternative. So if we want to say they're coping by not accepting by trying to look for the silver line in the dark cloud, then you can kind of have the opposite as well, where you can maybe say coping is actually the unwillingness to acknowledge the negative part of something that happened. Maybe like you did really well on a test and you should be happy about it, but there was something you forgot to study or you made a citation error or something like that. And it's like there's nothing wrong with going, I'm happy with this, but here's how I can improve. Here's how I can do better going forward, and acknowledging that personal failure, even if it's mostly a success. And that's just kind of one of the single hardest things to do in life, is to try to step back, acknowledge your feelings, but try to at the same time look at the situation objectively. So hopefully people found that interesting. Once again, this is something I do. I still think most cases I do this, it's because I feel people are being disingenuous. And I really hate that when people are being fake. Especially when it's in the context of like machismo, and like, I don't get why that's like somebody you want to deal with. Like, why is that a mark of honor that they don't care about other people? Is that really the kind of person that you want to be around? I mean, I get it. You don't want to be around someone who's so emotionally unstable they can't retain any kind of interpersonal relationships. But you really want to be around someone whose sense of self-worth is based on not caring about other people. I don't really think that that's a good approach either. A lot of times in life, you just kind of have to try to seek that middle ground, to try to kind of acknowledge that things are complicated and that there's not always simple answers to questions. And that's that. Hope you found the video interesting. Always just trying to kind of provoke some discussion with these. But God bless, and I'll talk to everybody later.